Howdy again everyone, and here comes another new low budget lens from Viltrox, a new autofocus 9mm f2.8 Air lens. It offers an APS-C image circle and it's coming out on Sony E, Nikon Z and Fujifilm X mount camera systems. At a price of only $199 or €229 or £190 here in the UK, this thing could offer you an extremely wide angle and a bright aperture at a very low price. I'd like to thank Viltrox for sending me a copy of one of these lenses for evaluation, although as usual this is a totally independent review. As I've mentioned already, it only offers an APS-C image circle. If you own a full frame camera, then you'll have to shoot it in crop mode. That's actually a little more coverage than I expected on full frame, as you can see here. Full frame shooters should not be too disappointed though, as Viltrox are simultaneously launching a new 14mm lens for full frame shooters, which is very similar to this one, even costing the same price, although it's only got half as bright an aperture. Anyway, enough fooling around on full frame. This lens is primarily designed for APS-C shooting, of course, where its field of view makes it the full frame equivalent of just wider than 14mm. That's an extremely wide angle, plenty enough to add some drama to your image and really stretch out your corners. At 9mm, it's all about your backgrounds here, and it can actually be a little tricky to compose your images as a result, but the end results can look amazing. That bright aperture of f2.8 is useful for shooting indoors or in darker conditions, although the lens is simply too wide for you to be getting out of focus backgrounds with it, unless you move very close to your subject, that is. This is the kind of lens that you won't be using all the time for general photography, but it could well be worth a couple of $100 to keep in your camera bag for special occasions, if it turns out to be any good, of course, that is. The lens's construction is dead simple, but it doesn't feel too low quality. Although it weighs 175 grams, it does feel solid enough in your hand. It's based on a metal lens mount with a USB-C port for firmware updates, but there's no weather sealing here. Then comes the lens's only control point, a plastic focus ring, which turns extremely smoothly. The lens's manual focus response was reasonably precise, although not lightning fast. Here you can see that the lens suffers from a moderate amount of focus breathing. On such a wide-angle lens though, that's not really a big deal. The lens's autofocus motor works accurately with an almost silent whirring sound, and it's pretty quick too, whether you're shooting in autofocus stills or continuous modes, so no problems there. The lens has a 58mm filter thread, and it comes with a small plastic lens hood. I was able to use a Marumi Fit and Slim polarizing filter with it without any additional vignetting. It does not feature image stabilization. Overall, it's a dead simple piece of kit, but considering the lens's low price, the build quality here is absolutely fine. So let's take a look at image quality. I'll be testing it today on a Sony A7CR in its 26 megapixel APS-C crop mode. In camera corrections are turned on for this test. In the middle of the image at f2.8, we see razor sharpness and excellent contrast straight away. Let's take a look over into the corners then. Alright, they're a bit softer and certainly darker, but still not bad. Stop down to f4 though for a considerable improvement in sharpness and contrast, and at f5.6 and f8 the corner image quality is fantastic, albeit still a bit on the dark side from vignetting. f11 and f16 look softer, of course, due to diffraction. Still, for a $200 lens with such extreme parameters, this is a very nice performance. It's nice and sharp straight from f2.8, although you should stop down just a bit for the best possible corner image quality. Good. Okay, let's turn off in-camera corrections and take a look at distortion and vignetting. We are seeing a little waviness here from where Viltrox have obviously made some effort to optically correct what would have otherwise been quite strong barrel distortion, I imagine. They haven't done quite a perfect job there, but it's better than most other companies who just leave it for your camera to make corrections. However, at f2.8, vignetting, as you'd expect, is very strong. Stop down to f4 or f5.6 for improvements, but that's about as bright as your corners will get, so you might like to brighten those corners in post whenever you're doing critical work. The lens has a nice little trick up its sleeve, a very close minimum focus distance of only 13 centimeters, enabling you to get some pretty creative images if you want to. Its other neat trick is that its close-up image quality is as sharp and packed with contrast as it was at normal distances, so that's really impressive. Next, work against bright light. The lens suffers a bit of a slip up here. While it's not totally disastrous, there are quite a few flaring effects to be seen. I have seen worse than this, but at a price of $200, there's got to be a slip up somewhere or other. While we're working in the dark, let's take a look for coma and sun stars. At f2.8, there's almost no coma smearing to be seen, and at f4, those corners look perfect to me. Let's zoom out then and look for sun stars. They begin to emerge at f5.6. At f8, f11 and f16, they get gradually stronger, becoming really quite impressive. Finally, let's take a look at the quality of this lens's bokeh. Hardly an important question here, as you have to get very close to your subject to see anything at all. Mostly, it looks lovely and soft, which is great to see. However, I noticed that even at f2.8, you can see the shape of the lens's 7 iris blades peeking through into specular highlights, which is very unusual for any lens at its maximum aperture, but thankfully, it doesn't look too ugly. And that's it. Overall, well, all I can say about this lens is wow! For a measly $200, you're getting a simply great optic here, which can offer you some really dramatic images, if you really want to get this wide, that is. If you own a mirrorless APS-C camera and you're on a low budget and you don't have an ultra-wide-angle lens yet, then pretty much drop everything, go out and buy this thing right now. You have no excuses. I wonder if Viltrox can get it onto Canon RF mount one day too for my R7 camera. Anyway, it's one of the best value for money APS-C lenses ever made, not to mention a lot of fun to use, so I can highly recommend this thing without the slightest reservation. Thanks for watching, everyone. Gah, I could test APS-C wide-angle lenses all day. I love those neat little things. I'm so glad full-frame cameras haven't completely taken over the world yet. The small size and low cost of APS-C is still really useful. A couple of things. Firstly, be sure to check out the playlists on my main YouTube channel to find reviews of camera lenses for your system that you might find really helpful. Secondly, if you watch these reviews often and you'd like to play a part in keeping them coming, then do check out my Patreon page or channel memberships. Supporters get all kinds of exclusive bonus content that I like to put together just for them, as well as a warm, fuzzy feeling deep inside for helping to keep things trucking on here in the test lab. Ciao for now, everyone.